Hey everybody, Eric here for the weekly news recap, not Resident Evil. That's what your notification says because I forgot to update the stuff, things, back end stuff for Twitch. Anyway, weekly news for the 3rd to... background music is quite loud, hang on, let me drop that down. Anyway. Alright, for real now. 3rd to the 9th of October 2022. So, what happened this week? Well... Now, ordinarily, I don't really talk about movie stuff for games. I'm not sure if I'm going to change that going forward because there's a lot of like adaptations and things on the way. But whatever, the Super Mario movie had a teaser trailer. For the most part, it looks pretty good. Bowser is really well realized. The Mushroom Kingdom looks really cool. It's colorful. It's vibrant. Jack Black does a great job as Bowser. The comedy seems pretty good, pretty on point. There's a bit where the penguins are trying to attack Bowser and he just annihilates them. It's pretty funny. So one like criticism that a lot of people are pointing out is that Mario 1 looks kind of weird. He doesn't like, it's definitely Mario, right? But he just looks kind of strange. Also, he has no arse, but that's just Nintendo for you, prudes. Give him back his arse. But the other criticism, of course, is that Chris Pratt is voicing Mario, and despite everything leading up to the announcement, since the announcement, saying like, yeah, I'm going to do a great job on Mario's voice. Well, you guys have never heard anything like it before, and it's just Chris Pratt. Like, there's a very slight hint of like a New York accent or something right at the end, but for the very small amount that's in the trailer, it's Chris Pratt. On the other hand, Luigi's in it by Charlie Day, or played by Charlie Day, and there's a little bit of like, you could nearly see what a Luigi's Mansion film would look like there, which would be great. Anyway, it's only a teaser trailer. It's not a whole lot of information. You're mostly just getting an idea of how it's going to look, the kind of general vibe they're going for, and you've got a quick look at Bowser and Mario. Peach is not shown in the trailer, though there have been leaks. It seems McDonald's will probably be doing a tie-in thing with their Happy Meals probably for Mario, so there is like promotional art of Peach, and that actually looks fine. You know, it looks good, honestly. It looks really nice. It does. It's just, why it wasn't a Charles Martinet for Mario, you know? And just shut up to everybody saying, oh, it'd be so annoying to be hearing, yo, wahoo, yo, yo, wahoo, for the whole film. No, it wouldn't. It'd be fine. You went through an entire 20 years of games making that noise for the whole game. It was fine. It would be fine for the film as well. Anyway, Jack Black is great, though, as Bowser. The small bit that we've seen, anyway. Okay, so there was a TGS reveal, or not reveal, but a kind of teaser. Kojima announcing his next game. There was a black silhouette that just said the words "Who am I?" in front of it, and people were like, "Hey, that looks a lot like Ellie Fanning." And turns out, yeah, it is. Sure, that's your update there. Yeah, the internet was correct on that one. Kojima has since brought out some more promotional materials that are just like, there's "Who am I?" and now there's "Where am I?" and nobody asks, "How am I?" You know. Will Kojima be the first person to ask, how am I? It's speculated that this is Death Stranding 2, mostly because there have been hints that it's in development. It also did very well commercially, and Ellie Fanning and Norman Reedus follow each other on Instagram, and they have never worked together, so they'd have no reason to do that, ostensibly. So, you know, this might be an idea for Death Stranding 2. Okay, CD Projekt announced a shit ton of games on the way. Basically, this is what we're going to be doing for the next 10 years, more or less. So they've announced a good few things. There's a little image here that's probably the easiest way to look at it. So the long-term product outlook for CD Projekt Red, as you can tell, this is a very corporate thing because that was the audience for this kind of presentation, but whatever. So there are three main pillars that are going to support CD Projekt for the futures. The Witcher, they're not done with it. Geralt might be done, but they're not done with The Witcher. There will be a new Witcher trilogy. Witcher 4 was already announced, but it is being seen as the beginning of a new trilogy of Witcher games that will be released over the next 6 years or so. Additionally to that, there's Witcher Project Sirius, which is going to be developed by the Molasses Flood. They're the people responsible for the game Flame in the Flood. They were bought by CG Projekt Red. I don't know why I keep calling them CD Projekt Red. It's just CD Projekt Red, I think, is an actual developer. Is one of their developing houses. Anyway, no, the company. I forget. We're not going to call them CD Projekt for now. Anyway, and then Canis Majoris is going to be developed by a third party, though it is made up of former Witcher developers. They must be kind of pissed about that. They're like, we finally got away from CD Projekt, and now they're collaborating to make another Witcher game. They're like, I thought I was out, and then they pulled me back in. Okay, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty expansion, already announced, so that is on its way in the next year or so. And then Project Orion, which will allegedly be a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077. And then, somewhat more interestingly, is their new IP that is currently just called Hadar, or Hadar, if you prefer. There is very little information about it. CD Projekt Red themselves have given very little. They're like, it is very much in the extremely early planning stages, which sounds to me like they announced it like a month ago or something, or they started it like a month ago in the actual team. So here's my random, just reckless speculation on what Project Hadar might be. But Hadar, or Hadar, whatever way you want to pronounce it, Hadar, I think is how I'm going to do it anyway, is an eldritch being like Cthulhu. So they belong in that whole mythos, they call it eldritch kind of stuff, the cosmic horror kind of thing. Hadar is one of those guys. They're also in Dungeons & Dragons. There is a spell attributed to them called the Arms of Hadar, which is a portal opens up and these crazy black tentacles come out. And no, not black tentacles. They're like milky white tentacles, and they make this horrible slopping, sloshing noise that's meant to be like really off-putting and whatever. It's not. It's meant to be gross. Also, eldritch being kind of thing. So maybe they're going for a kind of Lovecraftian eldritch horror deal. Hadar is meant to be, again, a big open world RPG like The Witcher, or the later Witchers, rather. First Witcher wasn't an open world game, neither was the second one. It's only the third one that went open world. Anyway, that's the deal with CD Projekt Red for the next 10 years or so. So they're hoping that this latest boost in popularity for Cyberpunk 2077 will carry them through into a sequel, into the expansion, and so on. But yeah, that's their plan going forward. Steam Deck. Oh, so the Steam Deck can now be purchased without a reservation. You no longer need to go on the waiting list. You no longer need to reserve and wait like 6 months for your name to be called up, and then very quickly have to actually put in your purchase order or whatever. You can just, you want a Steam Deck, go get it. Additionally to that, the dock. Did I not highlight this page? Okay, I didn't highlight this page. The dock, the thing that I had been waiting for before I was going to put a reservation down, because I don't leave my house. So I would rather have like a cheap PC is pretty much what I'm going for here. So yeah, the dock itself is now available. Also, pricing around that, it is somewhere under £100 sterling. So $70-ish or something like that. $70 to $80, I think, is what they're going for. So yeah, Steam Deck, completely, you don't need to wait for reservation now. If you want a Steam Deck, go get it. The Dead Space remake had a quick gameplay trailer this week, showing off just, hey, here's what we've been doing. Here's what the remake is going to look like. For you Dead Space fans, you may recognize a lot of these different locations and so on. It looks really good. Visually, how it actually plays is debatable. Dead Space was always somewhat clunky in the first place because it's meant to be a survival horror game, so you're not really meant to be capable. Exactly. You're meant to be in over your head, not have great movement, feeling like you're gonna get killed at any moment kind of thing. So it makes sense for the game to be clunky, and Dead Space 1 was kind of clunky. Dead Space 2 freed you up a little bit, and then Dead Space 3 was just all action, and that's not. You know what, Dead Space 3, it hasn't come out yet. It doesn't exist. The franchise stopped it too. Anyway, remake, yeah, looks gorgeous. Really looking forward to playing it. It's a shame Callisto Protocol is coming out like right ahead of it, because it is absolutely going to eat its lunch, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, probably should have done a gore warning for that, but whatever. Tequila Works confirms Stadia exclusive Guilt is going multi-platform next year. So there was concern with Stadia shutting down that a bunch of the Stadia exclusives would go into a memory hole and we'd never see them again. So Tequila Works, developer for Guilt, has confirmed its formerly Stadia exclusive action adventure Guilt will be going multi-platform next year. So in a tweet, the developer says, "Spooky season is around the corner, and we bring terrific news. We've been working on it for a long time, and it's finally time to make it official. Guilt is going multi-platform in 2023. So, what is kind of a backhanded compliment, I guess, but it is considered the best exclusive out of all the Stadia games. Wait, is that a backhanded compliment? I don't know. Anyway, it was probably the one that I think a lot of people were concerned would get disappeared in the Stadia shutdown. So it is good to see that that is being rescued, as it were. Tequila Works did mention that the exclusivity for Guilt wasn't always going to be permanent. They were working on a multi-platform, but I guess this has just sped up things for them. No news, though, on the other games that are currently set to be lost to time. Not great, but this is good news. And then this is kind of a help me out here, folks. You know, please, my pleading to you, help out your boy. Crystal Dynamics wants your thoughts on Legacy of Kain. So Crystal Dynamics is sending around a survey to people. I don't know why didn't I get one? You know, I have to go through this article to get it. You jerks, why didn't you send it to me? Anyway, they're sending out a survey on like what do you want to see from a Legacy of Kain? If we were working on it, if one was to make another Legacy of Kain game, what would you want to see, more or less? Is there kind of non-committal, we're not working on anything, but we're kind of working on anything, but we're not working on anything kind of thing? A couple of different questions. It's like, you know, what's your history with the series? What would you want to see if we did make a sequel? Would you want to see a complete remake? Would you want to see a continuation of the story, a remaster of one of the originals, and so on? So, you know, help me out here. Answer some of those questions. Preferably pick a single-player, narrative-focused story, please. Do not pick any multiplayer shit. We don't need another Nosgoth. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, at this point, we would talk about, hey, what games would you like to play right now? The problem is, fucking nothing interesting came out this week. So, we're going to jump straight into the worst part of video games. The video game industry. So, the Disco Elysium studio accused of ousting creators. Dev says it's bad news for a sequel. So, there's a big stink over the weekend that some of the core developers behind Disco Elysium, which is an incredible CRPG, you absolutely should play it. But it was announced that some of the core developers behind Disco Elysium are no longer working at the studio that created it. Studio leadership at Zaum, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, forced out the lead designers at the end of 2021. This is according to Martin Luiga, who was an editor on the game's script. But it has been kept secret ever since. In fact, a couple of outlets have asked for interviews as early as like February of this year, and they were only told that they weren't available, but not that they don't work here anymore. So it's clear that they were trying to keep this quiet, probably because they knew fans of Disco Elysium would be like, what the fuck? Why would you cut off the lead designer who wrote the novel the game is based on? Why would you cut off its lead artist for its like oil painting design? And why would you cut off its main writer of the incredible script that the game is known for? Wow, they could not possibly have gotten rid of the worst people for this game. This is a terrible blow to what allegedly they're making the sequel is in development, but this is incredibly bad. Zaum started off as a collective of artists in Estonia before later turning into a studio of the same name to develop one of its members' books into a Dungeons & Dragons inspired examination of political economy and self-loathing. Disco Elysium is incredibly well written. It's so good, honestly. It's a very, very good game. But yeah, as is kind of pointed out later on, it's that once the business people got involved, things started to get a little bit shit. I, Martin Luiga, a founding member and secretary of the Zaum Cultural Association, which is not related to the studio, as well as the assembler of most of the core team, I'm hereby dissolving the Zaum Cultural Association, not to be confused with the studio. Not to be confused with the Zaum Company, on which subject I would note that neither Kurvitz, the author, Hinpir, the scriptwriter, and Rostov, the lead lead artists, are working there since the end of last year, and their leaving the company was involuntary, which would seem like bad news for the loving fans that are waiting for the Disco sequel. So yeah, this is from Martin Luiga, who I don't believe is affiliated with the Zaum Company itself, but he is affiliated with the whole cultural collective association that birthed Disco Elysium. So not great. The studio's internal announcement of Kurvitz's departure late last year also contained a threat of possible legal action against him. So there's some fucking shit that's going on down there. Over in the UK, Zaum, the studio, is based in the UK. Kurvitz and Rostov are being shareholders in the studio is obviously going to make this much worse. Zaum has gone out of its way to try and keep the situation quiet. So again, Kotaku pointing out that they asked for an interview earlier last year. GamesIndustry.biz had something similar. They were never told that the people weren't working there anymore. They were just told they weren't available, which is not good. It's not something you do. Luigi's posts and subsequent comments and tweets have insinuated that the core team was pushed out by the business side of the studio. The money people come from a background which says you gotta grab when you can, even when it in fact does not make much economic sense. So they're like, no, we gotta push out a sequel right now. And they're like, we're not ready. The script isn't ready. We need a proper story and so on. Luigi posted a picture of the game's executive producers, kind of to point out that one of them was convicted of investment fraud. So that's not good. But the other one was actually initially responsible for persuading Kurvitz to write the book in the first place. And the book... Sorry, not the book. I haven't read the book. But the game certainly is not a fan of capitalism or corporate structure or anything like that. So there's got to be an interesting... There's got to be an interesting vibe there in the development studio. Because if you have these business people who come in and they're like, as is pointed out here, he has a superpower that's very important in capitalism. He understands money. But rather famously, Disco Elysium is very much against the whole corporate thing, the whole commodification of various things. So this is going to be a developing story, but... Not good news. Not good news for people. Well, one, not good news that they've effectively cut off the head of the studio. You know, the lead designer is gone. The lead writer is gone. The lead artist is gone. The guy who wrote the fucking book is gone, and so on. And it sure sounds like it was not a voluntary resignation. So yeah, would very much like to know what the hell happened there. And very bad news for a Disco Elysium sequel, if there's ever going to be one. Feels like it would not have the spirit of the original. But anyway. Continuing with shitty news for good games. Phasmophobia devs accused of housing a sex pest on its Discord server. So this was news that came out earlier this week. The Phasmophobia Discord server is accused of housing a sex pest on its official Discord server. It's not a fan-run one. This is run by the Phasmophobia team, ostensibly. So one of the users on the Discord has posts a number of incriminating messages that intimate that despite reporting him, the alleged sex pest known as Charcoal Salamander, had yet to be stripped of his administrative role on the server. So they were basically like, look, here's all the shit that they've been doing. Here's messages. Here's them sending revenge porn. Here's them doing harassing female members of the Discord and so on. Why is he still here? Why have you not jettisoned him now? This is again a tweet attributed to the same person who leaked. So who else knew that the Phasmophobia devs are housing a sex pest in their official Discord by keeping him in admin and refusing to take any claims against him seriously? Because I sure do now. I will not say much about it on behalf of the friend that is still dealing with the fallout of it all, but I'm going to actually ask people to please not play Phasmophobia anymore, even with the newest update coming out soon. It's rotten to the core. So, the actual development team behind Phasmophobia, or rather their lead artist, CJ Dixon, I presume is their name. So the Twitter thread itself that kicked off this whole shitstorm includes correspondence from them. So this is the lead artist on the game itself, who appeared reluctant to take action without more evidence. He basically said things like, "This is boys being boys. I would need to see more evidence, etc., etc. These are DMs between two people, and it shouldn't be, private or whatever. But whatever, it's public now, so you kind of need to make a decision here, and you are the official voice. You're the guy in charge. You got to do something here." Allegations against the admin include sharing nudes of others in the Discord channel and racist jokes. Charcoal Salamander was eventually stripped of his admin role and banned from the server, but this was only after the posts went viral and pressure was going on the team. So initially, the lead artist had asked for more evidence, and then without more evidence being given, then decided to ban him. So clearly, this was more of a "I don't want to deal with this. Let's just see if it blows over and I'll ignore it." It didn't blow over, and now they have egg on their face. Recently received some news about one of our Discord admins regarding sharing sensitive imagery and racist comments. After assessing the evidence, again, after assessing the evidence, we have removed the admin completely from the Discord team, and he will not be rejoining. Initially, they said there wasn't enough evidence. No additional evidence was given, but now apparently there was enough evidence. Not a good look for you, Chief. Additionally, he tries to kind of backpedal on some of the words he made himself, trying to say that he didn't agree with the sharing of revenge porn. Racist jokes were just between people. This is boys being boys, etc. And he claimed to say that his comments were taken out of context. The full context is right there. Like, it's right there in black and white. I've seen the images. You can go click into the tweets as well. I have the cookies disabled on Eurogamer, but you can click into the tweets yourself to look at them. It's right there in black and white. This was very much this is blowing up my face, better do something about it. Anyway, I will not let a situation like this happen in the future, and I wholeheartedly apologize for any part I played in this situation. Okay, you're very much trying to make yourself seem like you didn't know what was going on or weren't aware of the full extent of things or what have you, and fine, they apologized. I apologize for any part I played in this situation is not saying what part they played in it. It's more of I'm sorry if you're offended. I'm sorry if I hurt you. That's not an apology. Anyway, we'll have to see how they handle it going forward, but it certainly has tainted the whole Phasmophobia brand, at least for myself and a couple of other people I know who played the game. Not a good look. Not a good look. Anyway, we'll see what comes of it. If there's any, they address any of it in the future or whatever, or if the actual apology holds weight, I guess we'll find out. So this is kind of a weird story. So tattoo artist successfully sues 2K for replicating their designs on a WWE 2K wrestler. So the issue in question here is Randy Orton has a bunch of tattoos on his arms. Some of them are original tribal style designs. Alexander, the artist, applied to Randy Orton back in 2016, something like that, 15. Orton's character model in the WWE 2K games includes their tattoos because, of course, the whole deal with the WWE games is that they're meant to be kind of a simulation type deal. Like, they are applying them in the same way that their basketball games work. Or their... Are they baseball or is that EA? Either way, it's meant to be like a simulation, right? So they're trying to accurately show the characters, the athlete, if you like, exactly as they appear in real life. 2K argued that the use of the tattoos were considered fair use because they were used for the purposes of realistically recreating Orton rather than Alexander's original expressive purpose. So the idea is we're not copying the tattoo exactly, we are doing an accurate representation of this human being who exists in real life. They have these tattoos, what do you want from us? Do we just not have the tattoos? Do we have random other tattoos on them? Do we get rid of all the tattoos? And do we get rid of the tattoos for everybody else? So on. It's a whole clusterfuck of shit. Point is, the court said, nah, pay her. So, not to be on the side of the corporate guys here. This feels gross, but I'm kind of like, yeah, is this not fair use? Is this not exactly what fair use is supposed to be? I mean, she's only suing 2K. Like, she didn't sue WWE itself, who broadcasts Randy Orton, surely, every week, presumably. I haven't watched wrestling in such a long time. I don't even know if he's in it anymore. This lawsuit's going all the way back to 2018. Like, how come that's okay? Why is it okay for the camera to be on him all the time showing his tattoos? Is that not... I guess because that's not a recreation. Technically, it is recreation because it's being broadcast from wherever it is, sent through electricity wires, and then reproduced on your screen. You could argue it's a reproduction. You know, where do you draw the line with that? And then it's even stranger because in another case... Go away. In another case, Take-Two won a similar lawsuit in 2020 when they had a tattoo company was arguing that some tattoo designs on one of the basketball stars, LeBron James, Kenyon Martin, and Eric Bledsoe. Don't know who any of that. Well, I know who LeBron is, but I don't know who the rest of them are. Again, tattoos recreated because they're on the person. They're recreating the person's likeness. Obviously, you're going to reproduce the tattoos. And the lawsuit, in that sense, the court went, yeah, fair use. It seems in that case they had permission from the individual athletes themselves for their likenesses. I'm guessing that, does that override the tattoo artist's copyright on their own designs? Is a very murky one. It's a very, very murky situation there. I would have felt fair use, personally. They would have had maybe a different outcome if you were able to apply tattoos to like a created character. There's a fairly extensive creator wrestler mode in these games, and if it was the case that you could apply those tattoos to one of your custom characters, I think they'd have grounds then. But when they're just reproducing the likeness of an actual person who exists in real life and has these tattoos, I don't know. They didn't get a lot of money though, as it turns out. They only got a couple of grand. Yeah, about $4,000 in damages. They're basically saying that you're not entitled to the profits that the game made because the game isn't about tattoos or something like that. Anyway. Okay, we got to shit on Activision for a little bit. So, EU regulators are surveying developer concerns over Microsoft Activision merger. So this is kind of a preliminary survey that's been sent out to some developers before the EU dives into like their deep dive into the Activision Microsoft merger. So the EU have been issuing surveys. European Union's antitrust regulators are issuing surveys to developers to gauge their concerns over the deal. Some questions, around 100 questions in the survey, but some of them are whether the deal will affect the bargaining power for developers and publishers trying to sell console and PC games via Microsoft's platform and services. Probably not. How important the Call of Duty franchise is for platform holders and providers of subscription services. Unfortunately, yes, very important, but I really do feel, as I've said in the past, focusing on Call of Duty by itself is a mistake on Sony's part. It just plays into Microsoft's hands. They can just say, okay, cool, you can have Call of Duty. We're going to keep everything else, though. This is not a good look. Whether there will be sufficient alternatives if Microsoft decides to make Activision Blizzard's games exclusive to Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Computing. Sufficient alternatives would be PC, and would that be considered a sufficient alternative? Debatable, probably. You'd have to wonder the casual market. Casual market isn't necessarily big into PC games, so they would be gravitating towards either Xbox or PlayStation, and in that sense, there might be an issue. Whether exclusivity will grant Microsoft and by extension Windows any particular advantage on PC? Yeah, it already has a huge monopoly in PC games anyway, through Windows. You know, vast majority of PC games do not work on Mac, and even fewer work on Linux. So yeah, Windows already has a de facto monopoly on that. Whether Activision's wealth of user data would give Microsoft any advantage in developing, publishing, and distributing video games? Yeah. You have to remember that Activision also own King, huge mobile developer, publisher. So yeah, there's a massive trove of user data available there. Whether the deal changes perceptions of which cloud gaming services are the most attractive. So this is Game Pass, basically. Does it make Game Pass seem super duper attractive? Yes, it does. So that's a bunch of questions for developers to send back to surveys. How much weight these surveys will have is debatable, but they are asking. You know, they're not just listening to lobbyists and industry representative. They are going out to actually ask the developers themselves about these questions. Continuing on the Activision shit train, turns out Activision Blizzard were withholding raises from union campaigners. This is according to the National Labor Relations Board of the United States. Activision Blizzard withheld raises for the QA testers at Raven Software, who remember were attempting to unionize and have successfully unionized. So now that this has been found and it's out, and Activision have been made aware that the union is aware of this will effectively be used as leverage in their collective bargaining agreement. But they are going to continue on with their negotiations, basically using this as a kind of a Damocles sword, sort of. The NLRB can issue a complaint against Activision Blizzard. So if they can't come to an agreement, there'll be an official complaint through the NLRB, which has pretty big consequences. Another option, which is a little bit nuclear, but NLRB could prosecute the case before a federal judge should the company refuse to settle. So again, if you choose not to pay your employees because they were trying to unionize, that's a pretty big lawsuit on your way there. But this, according to a former NLRB chairman, this is a very preliminary win for the union. It's a good bit of leverage, but it's like adding ammunition to negotiations and stuff like that. So it's not a huge deal, but it is, further highlights that Activision Blizzard are maybe not playing fair with their union reps. Anyway, and we're not done yet with the Activision Blizzard train. Frances Townsend has stepped down. You may remember Frances Townsend, we'll get to her in a minute. Executive VP for Corporate Affairs. Wow, does that sound like a fucking made-up job, but here we are. So they're going to step down from their position. They no longer work for Activision Blizzard, the company. However, they will continue to act as a senior advisor to the board and Bobby Kotick himself, which suggests that maybe... Huge speculation, because none of this was actually said, but my speculation is that Microsoft wanted her gone. But they also wanted to keep her on for senior advisor position and stuff like that. So she's no longer directly employed by the company. So presumably she's on as like a freelance advisor kind of thing. So still getting paid. Still getting paid by the company, but doesn't actually work for the company, which is it's pretty gross. Anyway, Bobby was, of course, full of, praise for Frances Townsend. However, on the other side of things, Frances Townsend was the first person to respond to the Activision Blizzard allegations when they were levied at them last year. She said that the allegations were meritless and irresponsible. And they presented a distorted and untrue picture of the company, which has maybe turned out not to be the case. It may turn out that she was doing a little bit of lying there. Anyway, over 1,000 employees at the time called for her to step down from her role as executive sponsor of the ABK, Employee Women's Network, because she was like, this stuff isn't happening. There's no sexual harassment happening at Activision. 1,000 female employees were like, are you fucking serious right now? You might want to fuck off from our Women's Network thing. Thanks very much. Anyway, she's left the company, but she's still being paid by the company, so it's not all good news. Anyway, and in a terrible blow to perverts everywhere, Nintendo was reportedly cracking down on uncensored boobs and hentai games. So, Adult Games Publisher claims its upcoming titles have been rejected. So, if you have delved into the Nintendo eShop recently, you might have noticed a lot of questionable games that are floating up onto the store there. It's almost having the same problem that Steam has in that. There's a lot of questionable games floating up there. Anyway, so according to Amazing Mature Titles, which is the name of the pub, Amazing Mature Lewd Titles, Gamuzumi, who has fantastic games titled Elves Fantasy Hentai Puzzle, Beauty Bounce, and Inside Her, parentheses, Bedroom. Quality title names there. Anyway, we received an answer from Nintendo, and we now have confirmation that they do not allow uncensored boobs on their consoles. Up until this point, they did. So what changed? Somebody looked at the eShop, I guess. I don't know. It's always kind of strange, because you would never have expected Nintendo to be the title to have hentai games, basically. And yet, it was. And the studio or publisher you would expect would be fine with it would be PlayStation, because, that's kind of their deal. Sorry, hentai is not their deal, but they're a little bit more grown up about these kind of things. But no, PlayStation is extremely prudish and conservative these days, whereas Nintendo were like, yeah, lol, whatever. So basically, their next game, Hot Tentacles Shoot, will not be published on Nintendo until they remove the boobs. Also, their recently announced Elves Christmas hentai puzzle, also same deal, no boobs, no anime boobies. And then so somebody decided to search through it. A brief search of the Nintendo eShop reveals that games such as Fantasy Tavern Sextet, Panty Party, and Doki Doki Pants, incredible, are also approved for release in the past year. 2 games haven't even been advertised that they can be played with one hand if you are so inclined. If you happen to be, I don't know, making a phone call with the other hand or something. Maybe you're playing 2 games at the same time. Maybe you're doing something else with the other hand. Anyway, it would seem that they have changed their tune, Nintendo, or have decided to actually enforce their policies in this case. So yeah, this is funny, sure, but it does highlight a problem with the art form, the video game art form in itself, in that there is no room for adult-only games. You know, games that go past 15s, games that go past mature, games that are rated as adult-only in the US, games that would be rated Zero Z, I think, in Japan. You know, games that basically Best Buy won't put on their shelves. It just speaks to the kind of idea that games are still viewed for children and not viewed for adults. And not that like hentai boobs exactly are an incredible art form that should be held up as a cultural phenomenon or something like that. But the point is, it's available. Pornography is available, you know. Artistic nudes are available, kind of thing. You'll even see them in the Louvre, you know. You see them in the British Museum, stuff like that. National art galleries and so on. That's fine, but if a video game has that kind of stuff, it's wrong. You know, it's not allowed. The industry very much wants to ignore it, and so on. So it's not as hilarious as it is for some of the titles to be, and to point them out, and to see them show up on the eShop, and you have Doki Doki Pants alongside Super Mario Odyssey. You know, yeah, it's funny, but it shouldn't be funny. You know, it should just be, yeah, okay, they are adult games too. Should they be filtered, maybe, in some case? Should there be an option to turn off a safe search or something like that? I don't know. Probably is the answer, but the thing is, once you start doing that kind of filtering, I mean, you do it for film, right? Rental, or video rental obviously isn't a thing anymore, but at the time, adult videos were usually kept in a separate section. Obviously, there's not necessarily going to be a separate section for digital storefronts and what have you, but I kind of feel there should be, you know? Like, not necessarily Nintendo should go all in on porn games or something like that, but there should be an allowance for it, you know? There should be a place for these kind of things, because they are an artistic expression. We want to value artistic expressions culturally, even if you don't necessarily agree with those expressions. They should still be respected. And the fact that practically every storefront is against us, where do you expect it to go? How do you expect the art form to improve, and so on and so forth? Anyway, no more big anime titties on Nintendo. Anyway, we're going to finish with something stupid. So, Beyond Good and Evil 2 overtakes Guinness record holder Duke Nukem Forever as game longest in development. So, finally, something has eclipsed it. Duke Nukem Forever is no longer the longest game in development. Duke Nukem Forever was finally released in 2011 and had been going for like 14 years in development. So from its first announcement that it was going to come out to when it actually did finally come out, 14 years. Now, it was not in continuous development for that amount of time. There was breaks in between. It changed platforms, it changed engines, it changed rights holders, and so on all over the place. Projects were restarted, scrapped, restarted again, and so on. So anytime you hear like game has been in development for 10 years, 15 years or whatever, like, it hasn't. Except for Star Citizen. That actually has been at the time, because they just refused to release it. But now, Beyond Good and Evil 2 has eclipsed it. So Duke Nukem Forever went 5,156 days from its announcement in 1997 to its release in 2011. However, it has been 5,234 days since Beyond Good and Evil 2's first trailer was released. So it's been a while. It's been quite a while. And the development background, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the development background for Beyond Good and Evil 2, the initial discussion CG trailer for a sequel was 2008. And then for a long time, nothing happened. 2016 was the last time we heard about it. There was a big E3 announcement for it. Then Michel Ancel was jettisoned from Ubisoft because of... we don't know. There was trouble at the game's development studio. It was in and around that time that the first Ubisoft allegations of sexual harassment and problematic workplaces took place. Perhaps he was responsible for it. We don't know. Again, no information was made public. They just left. However, it is still being worked on because they are still hiring people. A narrative designer was added in August this year. So they're still working on it. So technically, but anyway, it is now the new longest game in development hell. Anyway, I don't actually have a video to... Okay, we'll do the Mario one just because the Dead Space one is super gory. I probably shouldn't have that going. Anyway, so that was the news for the 3rd to the 9th of October, 2022. The Mario movie, again, this is just a teaser trailer. We don't really know what it's going to be like. All we really have is a very, very small snippet of Chris Pratt's voice, which doesn't sound great. My opinion. It's not exactly his own voice, as a lot of people are sort of saying that, lol, it's just Chris Pratt's voice. There is like a very subtle accent. But yeah, it's certainly not Mario. Like, this should have been Charles Martinet. And it is a great disrespect to him and all of his work for, you know, has been the voice of Mario for nearly 20 years. It is extremely disrespectful to voice actors in general that they go for a Hollywood name instead of, you know, the guy who's been the voice for 20 years. Anyway, Dead Space, yeah, that's Dead Space. Sure looks like it. I mean, what do you want me to say? It's a remake of the game. Looks almost exactly like it. Good job. It does look like it's going to be a one-for-one remake of the game. It doesn't look like they're adding too much new to it. Because obviously we'll have to wait and see. But right now it doesn't look like they're adding too much new to it. Steam Deck, no reservations. I've already put in my order for it. Getting the dock, getting a Steam Deck. I'll eventually be able to actually play PC games on the channel because right now it's a bit touchy to try and stream and play PC games on the one machine. So I don't do it because it's just not reliable and I don't want to have a bad experience. But if I have the Steam Deck, that's no longer an issue because that has its own HDMI out and it won't take up any processing power on the PC. So nice. Hopefully that works. It just works. Hopefully that would be nice. Anything else? Ellie Fanning being the Who Am I? Yeah, I mean we kind of knew that. It's just confirmation that is in fact her. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the channel updates. So what is happening on the channel next week? Well, what about this week first? So this week we started Grim Fandango. So we finished Return to Monkey Island on Monday. Fun game. That's as much as I'll say about it. Spoilers otherwise. I liked it. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Overall, I enjoyed the game. There was like bits and pieces of it that I wasn't a big fan of, but overall, fun game. Glad we got to play it. Glad they made it after all these years. I necessarily need a sequel. Fine. If they do, great. Sure, I'll play it. But I think it's fine. It's good where it finishes. I think it's all right. Then we started Grim Fandango because I did say a good while ago that we had a poll for what the next Fully Fable would be, and the council won it. Or rather, the council and Grim Fandango tied. But because I had not ever played the council before, I decided to go with that because it was a brand new game to me and I wanted to play a new game. Anyway, we're going to continue with Grim Fandangos. We started that on Wednesday. And we'll be continuing that into next week. Thursday, we played the Centennial Case, which was a full motion video, kind of murder mystery whodunit kind of thing. So if you've ever been on shows like like detective shows, that kind of thing, where they're like a murder happens in the first 10 minutes and then you spend the rest of the episode trying to figure out who did it. And it's all kind of ridiculous, outlandish twists and things like that. It's like that, but Japanese, pretty much. It's fun. I really liked it. Even if I did call the twist like right at the start, as soon as it happened, I was like, it's that, and I was right in the end. But still, it's nice to be right. I like being right. There was no stream on Friday because D&D. Saturday we started Resident Evil, the original. So we're playing the Resident Evil Director's Cut. I thought it was the bad Director's Cut on the PlayStation, but it seems it's not. We won't know until we reach the part with the clown fart trumpet music. We won't know until we reach that. But right now, it's good. It's the good one. So I'm enjoying having played that. Not enjoying forgetting all of shit because I thought I knew the game better than I did. But turns out, maybe I don't. Or maybe those are like the changes that were made for the Director's Cut, because I only ever played the original version. I've never played the Director's Cut. So fun things happening. And then that was Saturday, and then we're back to Sunday weekly news recap. So next week, what are we going to be doing? So we're going to be continuing Grim Fandango. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we're going to play Grim Fandango back to back. Potentially, we'll finish it on Wednesday. We are at, for anyone who's played the game before, we are in the middle of year 2. So we'll probably finish year 2, a bit of year 3 on Monday, and then probably finish the game on Wednesday. It's only 4 years. 4 years in the game. Even if it says lost for 15 years. No. That's the game itself was lost for 15 years. Anyway, going to be continuing that. That is the new Foley Fable until we finish it. Probably on Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to check out Moon Scars. Moon Scars is a side-scrolling Castlevania Dark Souls-y type thing. It's a roguelike. Yeah, it's like a roguelike Castlevania type deal. Looks cool. Really like the animation. Really like the art style. I'm not sure how much I like the challenge, but I guess we'll find out. But it looks really cool. And yeah, I am excited to play it. But apparently I'm going to be dying a lot. Friday, we're going to play Tunic. Tunic is something I've been looking forward to playing for a very long time. It came out on Xbox 2 years ago, I want to say. And it is pretty much The Legend of Zelda, but you're a fox. Was it? And you know what? Legend of Zelda games are good. And sure, why not? Why not be a cute little fox bombing about in our Legend of Zelda world? That seems good to me. Apparently, the combat is a bit tricky. I have tried to avoid looking at anything in the game, mostly because I don't want to be spoiled on it at all. I just want to go in knowing as little as possible. So I guess we'll find out, but we're going to play that on Friday and have a good run at it and see how far we get. And then on Saturday, and what we're going to be doing for a while, at least until we finish the first Resident Evil. So by finish, I mean play as both characters and get both endings for both characters. Because I do want to do fairly exhaustive run of the Resident Evil games, because I don't typically go back and do like side modes or alternative endings and stuff like that. I don't usually bother for most games, but I do for Resident Evil because I really like Resident Evil. So we're going to do that. We are playing through as Jill right now because Jill is easier, more or less, and I haven't played the game in a very long time. So we're going to play as Jill at the beginning, then we will swap over to Chris, and then we'll try Jill again, but arrange mode was specifically for the Director's Cut. It moves around a couple of items aren't all in the same place, enemies have been moved around as well, and so on. So it'll be almost like a brand new game, to me at least, because I've never played it. So I'm looking forward to that. So that is the schedule for next week. We will have Grim Fandango on Monday and Wednesday, Moon Scars on Thursday, Tunic on Friday, Resident Evil Director's Cut on Saturday, and then we'll be right back around to the weekly news recap on Sunday. So that's it from me for today. That's your weekly news recap and channel update for the week, 3rd to the 9th of October 2022. Let me know what you guys thought. Is there anything you're looking forward to? Any of the games I'm playing next week you're looking forward to? Is there something else I should slot into the Monday or the Wednesday slot? Or the Thursday or Friday slot? Saturday is Resident Evil. That's not changing. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know. Let me know what games you're interested in. I am starting a full Resident Evil series playthrough. So the idea is that I'm going to play the entire franchise, all of the numbered entries at least. So the original PlayStation 1, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. Moving on to the PS2, Code Veronica, Resident Evil 4. Moving on to the PS3, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6. And then PS4, PS5, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8. So there are, of course, the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes as well. There's Resident Evil 1 remake. There's Resident Evil 4 remake on the way. So we'll be getting that in at some point too. And then 7 and 8 also have VR modes. So again, I am going to try to do an exhaustive run of the whole series. However, I am not touching any of the offshoots. With one exception, I will play the Revelations games because I like them. But otherwise, no. I'm not playing Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles and Operation Raccoon City and the multiplayer games and so on. No, not touching them. But the mainline entries and Revelations, that's kind of what we're going for. Anyway, hopefully I'll see some of you in the chat for that. I'm going to head off now. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hopefully see you guys tomorrow for Grim Fandango. But if I don't, why not? Why aren't you in the chat? Anyway, if you want to check out any of the videos you played last week or any video in general, YouTube has all of my VODs, youtube.com/DoomTrain5. You can check all of those out. There's plenty of LPs and one-shot videos over there, as well as an archive of all the weekly news recaps since I started. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube right now, and you would like to give me shit live and in person on Twitch, maybe not in person, but certainly live, twitch.tv/DoomTrain5. You can check that out too. Always happy to see people in the chat. Less happy if they give me shit, but still, it's always appreciated regardless. Right, I am for real gonna head off this time. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow for Grim Fandango. Bye bye.